Greetings, citizens of the internet. You can call me Nitro Indigo, and I'm not satisfied with my original Cars 2 review. I feel like I didn't explain my points well enough and skipped over large chunks of the plot for the sake of brevity. I've had a problem with feeling that my videos are incomplete since the Porygon problem. My opinion of this extremely riveting movie constantly fluctuates between unironically liking some aspects of it, considering it a guilty pleasure, and feeling ashamed of myself for ever having any positive feelings towards it. First of all, something about the facial animation in Cars 2 just looks uncanny sometimes, and I don't get that feeling from anything else in the franchise. Radiator Springs also looks weirdly oversaturated. Any animation experts watching this who can explain these? Still, I've seen far worse looking anthropomorphic vehicles. The problem with the plot of this movie is that it's so convoluted it's hard to summarise. Even the back of the Blu-Ray box barely talks about the actual spy part. Star race car Lightning McQueen, Owen Wilson, and the incomparable Terminator, Larry the Cable Guy, take their friendship to exciting new places when they head overseas to compete in the first ever World Grand Prix to determine the world's fastest car. But the road to the championship is filled with plenty of potholes, detours and hilarious surprises when the Terminator gets caught up in an intriguing adventure of his own, international espionage! Also, the only extras on this lovely Blu-ray are the two shorts, despite the menu clearly having space for more, and it came in a 2-disc box despite only having one. What a rip-off. To recap, the spies are supposed to meet an actual American agent. The actual American agent has a circular thingy containing a photograph of the leader of Team Antagonist's engine. He gives the circular thingy to the Terminator. The actual American agent dies horribly. Team Antagonist harm the racers on live television. The spies mistake the Terminator for the actual American agent and kidnap him. In my original review, I omitted Lightning McQueen's subplot because I thought it wasn't important to my points. Upon further thought, however, it is. Here we go. Sally tells Lightning to bring the Terminator with him to Tokyo. The Terminator embarrasses Lightning. Lightning gets mad at the Terminator, causing the Terminator to try to go back home and get kidnapped by the spies. An Italian couple tell Lightning that he was wrong for getting mad at the Terminator. Lightning tells a doubtful Terminator that it's okay to be yourself. So we have the cheesy complainer is always wrong trope, a product of trying too hard to be kid-friendly, in the same movie as some distinctly not kid-friendly deaths. Who was this movie even made for? Also, shouldn't have the Terminator been reported missing to the authorities when it was clear that he didn't return to Radiator Springs? Then there's the fact that they seemed to be going for an everyone is good at something in their own unique way moral, since the Terminator figures out who the villain is using his knowledge of old cars, using information we, the audience, were never told. But as several other reviewers have noted, it comes off as telling kids that social etiquette is overrated. There's also the fact that I feel ashamed of myself for finding the Terminator's self-doubt relatable at one point.
No one realises they're being fooled because they're too busy laughing at the fool.
Is that how you see me?
That's how everyone sees you. Isn't that the idea?
Also, the problem with Cars 2's darkness is that it's too blatant. It's not something that only adults will pick up on and appreciate. It's a series of downright disturbing things that are juxtaposed horribly against a childish protagonist who's too naive to understand what's going on. It's superficially stupid, like a Saturday morning cartoon where everyone dies. Combined with awful pacing that speeds up exponentially, we end up with a movie that feels rather rushed and confused. Case in point, the idiot trio go to Paris, and the only thing of substance that happens there is that they learn where to go next. There was originally going to be a race there. Unlike most Pixar movies, character development takes a backseat to action, and the plot isn't resolved by the protagonists overcoming their own flaws. The plot is caused not by the internal conflicts of the protagonists, but rather the external problems caused by the antagonists. Despite my major gripes, there are plenty of things I like about Cars 2. Some of the trailers are better than the actual movie. They made it look like Cars 2 would be a fun world tour with plenty of action, and really gave me a feel for what Pixar was going for.
I'm sticking by you the way you always stick by me!
Ready?
Cars 2 has an amazing attention to detail. For example, there's a behind-the-scenes video somewhere on YouTube about how the artist subtly incorporated car parts into the architecture, which really made me appreciate this movie a lot more. I love the airport scene. Sure, there are a few cheesy bits. But there's even more nice little details, such as heat distortion, actual plane terminology,
I'm on approach.
subtext hinting at a far more interesting story than the one this movie is telling.
Thanks, old boy. You
got it, mate.
There's also the fact that Cars 2 is trying to have a theme about how people, cars, whatever, react to being underestimated by society. The Terminator has his doubts because he's frequently laughed at, but ends up saving the world from capitalism, I guess, while Team Antagonist want revenge or something. The idea of the protagonist and antagonist being two sides of the same coin has been done a lot because it's interesting, but Cars 2 goes nowhere with this concept. That's the thing. Everything I like about Cars 2 is either implied or in the background. The meat isn't good, but it's covered in well-animated sauce, and the crudities are decent. Cars 2 could have been so much better if the plot had breathing room to develop the characters, the morality was grey, after all, spies aren't the most virtuous people, and if the intended message was clearer. This movie is a gold mine of wasted potential, but the mine is full of pyrite. Honestly, I felt obliged to review Cars 2. A few months ago, people I know in real life kept asking me to review it, and Cars 3 was on the horizon. There's also the fact that unlike many Pixar movies, I have things to say about it that haven't been said countless times by far more talented YouTubers. To illustrate my point, I'll talk about a Pixar movie that people actually like. Toy Story 2 is my jam. It has a coherent story where everything ties nicely together at the end, and every scene goes somewhere. In other words, it's concise. It succeeds at being more emotional than the original without feeling jarring. I like Buzz's leadership skills because it feels like a natural progression from thinking he was a space ranger. The moody orange lighting looks nice, even by today's standards, and I just really like orange lighting. Could you believe that Toy Story 2 was originally planned to be direct-to-DVD, made in about a year, and was almost accidentally deleted? But everyone likes Toy Story 2, so what can I add to the table? Meanwhile, Cars 2 is often lambasted as the worst Pixar movie, use flames to burn, so when I say that its shock horror has redeeming qualities, I stand out. I mean, think about it. Cars 2 is well researched, doesn't use its celebrity voice actors as gimmicks, the story is at least original, the soundtrack is awesome, and it attempted to expand the Cars universe. It's not great, but it's at least interesting. Also, Toy Story 2 has a scene where the protagonist gets off a plane that's heading to Japan, while Cars 2 has a scene where the protagonist gets onto a plane that's leaving Japan.
Coincidence? I think not!
Which brings me to Cars 3, which I saw on the 22nd of July 2017, 8 days after it came out in the United Kingdom. I assume that its release date was chosen to coincide with the summer holidays, but I'm slightly salty that New Zealand got it before us. Cars 3 is not a groundbreaking movie, and that's okay. The pacing isn't too slow like many people accuse Cars 1 of, nor is it whiplash fast like I accuse Cars 2 of. Emotions and humour alike have time to sink in, and there's ample room for character development. The moments that stand out the most to me are the kid who shouts "Lightning!", the beach, the demolition derby, and the forest race with the really nice night sky. There seems to be this stigma that Cars is just a poorly made series of movies that you shouldn't expect anything meaningful from, which is just patently wrong. It's like people took one look at the first movie, thought it was childish because it was about talking cars, and didn't pay any attention to the plot. If you pay attention to Cars 1, you'll discover a sentimental story about nostalgia, becoming a better person, and how people rush through life. Cars 3, meanwhile, is about how you must take chances and embrace both the old and the new. Cars 3 is a sequel we didn't ask for, but the one we deserved. It remembers why people love the original without banking on nostalgia. It has its own identity. Take note, Nintendo! Cars 2 seems to have given people the idea that Pixar only makes safe movies that don't take risks nowadays, where everyone is happy and nothing has consequences. In the run-up to the release of Cars 3, I saw some people on the internet who honestly believed that Lightning McQueen's crash wouldn't change anything, at least not in a meaningful way. Some people call Toy Story a perfect trilogy, so I like to call Cars a Goldilocks trilogy.